Okay, in this section, we're going to be talking about turning some pictures into black and white. My personal recommendation is to always shoot in color and then choose afterwards if you want to turn a picture black and white. There's several things I look for in a picture to see if they're going to be good black and white pictures, and then I determine if I want to turn a picture into black and white. I have here some examples, and I'm going to go over why I believe some of these pictures will look good in black and white and why it might not. So the first thing I look at when I take a picture, right, is how neutral the colors are in the picture. When I see a lot of gray, black, or white, something like this or this one, I feel like it might become a good black and white picture. I'm wearing white here, and the background doesn't have that many colors that stand out or add a lot of brightness. In here, even the background picture of a car is in gray. Like, things don't have color that makes it stand out. If I had a red balloon behind me, or a plant, or anything that has strong colors that attract a lot of color, a lot of light, then it's gonna be, I feel like it's gonna be a bad black and white picture. Anything that has a lot of contrast, that collects brightness and makes a picture bright in the background, I don't feel like it's gonna be a good black and white picture. This one here, I feel like the curtains in the background is of a color that is bringing in some light. So you can see some highlights right here that I feel like will make the background not look so good in this picture for a black and white. The next thing I look for besides that is, so the neutral colors is the first thing. The next thing I look for is the subject. Let's say I'm doing a portrait. If they're brighter than the background, right? If the background has too many highlights, I think it's a problem. So this right here is a problem. This light here. This window part right here is a problem. But besides that, I am well exposed versus the background. The background's a little bit dark. Here is the opposite. As you can see here, there's a lot of shadow in my face, and the background is very well exposed. My face is darker than the background, and here my face is a little bit brighter than the background. So this one's going to make a better black and white picture than this one. And here my face is the brightest part of the big picture, which is why I consider this one for a picture that I can turn into a black and white. So those are some of the bases I look for. So color, I want as little neutral color, and the second thing is that my subject is separated from the background. Now, you could have also a picture, which I don't have an example of here, where the whole background's blown out and then the subject is in the shadow. Then you have what's called a white background with like detail, with the subject just being darker. That will also work, but it's better when the background is darker and almost black, and then the subject is bright and stands out. So now what I'm going to do, once I pick these pictures that I think would make good black and white pictures, and then I put them in this album called Black and White. If you're not familiar with albums, what you do is you click select, select an image, and then click add to, and then you can write new album or pick an album, new album, name the album, and then save the pictures there. So now I'm going to go to the album, Black and White, and I'm going to start with this first picture. Okay, so what I want to do now that I've decided I want to make this black and white is click edit on the top right. And then my favorite thing to do, you can click on this little slider tool and click on black and white. It's going to turn it black and white as soon as I move this left or right. But instead of that, what I like to do is I click cancel, edit. I like to go to this preset one. This preset option has two that are true black and whites, which is mono and nor. So this is mono and this is nor. I like these because it gives me a nice starting point to see my black and white, to see if if I like it or not. So I like Nor. I'm going to leave it there. And then what I tend to do in my black and whites, if I'm using the phone editor to edit my picture, it is better to use some of the other apps that are in this course, like Snapseed and Lightroom. But for the purpose of just showing you what makes a good black and white and a little introduction to black and white, I'm just going to be using this slider tool. So the thing that I always do is I always go to my contrast and I raise my contrast. What that's going to do is make the background that's supposedly already darker, and then my face, which is the bright part in the image, brighter. So highlights are going to get brighter and the shadows are going to get darker. So I raise that and you see my face is getting brighter and then the shadows are getting darker. Okay? So I raise it a little. I think it looks a little better. The next thing I do is I mess with the shadows and the highlights. You always want to mess with the shadows and the highlights in a black and white picture to see what's going to look better. So I raise this, and then I lower it. I raise it. Now, if you raise it and you think it looks bad, but on the subject it looks better, but on the overall picture it looks bad, afterwards raise your contrast. So my face looks a little like I don't like the shadow parts of my face. If I raise it up to here, I like how my face looks now, but I don't like how the background looks. So I'm gonna raise it to this much. Now my face looks good. Then I go to contrast and I raise the contrast and I like a little bit more. The next thing is highlights. I tend to go lower or darker just to see which one's better. In this case, I know that lower is going to be better for me. It's going to get rid of some of the highlights in the background, some in my face to make my face more even and light. Now that my face is a little even, I raise the contrast. And I'm always want to raise my contrast up and up, but I mess with my highlights and shadows so that my subject looks good. So I lower my highlights, raise my contrast, raise my shadows. And I like this. Now by messing with this a lot, it brought a lot of detail in my face, all my blemishes and everything. I might fix those using another app, right? But it's a really strong black and white picture. My lips were affected a lot too, so it looks almost like I'm wearing lipstick because I pushed it too much. So maybe I just the original Nor. So that's what I would do here. Let's look at this picture for example. If you go to edit and then use our presets, you see here that the background's bright and my face is ugly gray. And I don't like this. I want my face to stand out more. It's almost disappearing. You're not focusing on my face because it's too dark. So I go to edit and I try my best to save this. In order to save this, I'm going to raise my shadows. Raising my shadows is going to make all the shadow parts brighter. So I'm going to raise this. Okay, now my face is brighter, but it's making everything flat. So I'm going to lower my highlights, which is the background. Now I have this ugly picture that's a little flat. So I'm going to raise my contrast to get rid of that. Okay, so that fixed it a little bit. I'm going to raise my shadows a little bit more. Lower my highlights. And raise my contrast. You could also raise the exposure. Okay, you can mess with black point. And black and white tool does a good job too. And in this case, it's gonna help my face out. So I can make it a little bit brighter. And then I'm done. I knew that this wasn't gonna make a good black and white picture, and I already feel like it isn't because the background's too bright, and I'm just trying to compensate with my face. So this is an example one that I wouldn't turn into black and white. Here my face is bright, but the background has too many colors, and it has highlights in some of these parts that have color. So if I turn this into black and white, edit, and black and white, you see that, let me go to edit. So mono, everything's gray. Everything's gray, and I want my face to stand out from the background more. So I go to edit, this tool, light, contrast, raise the contrast. By raising the contrast, it gave separation from my face to the background, because my face is the bright part and the background is dark parts. Then I would lower the highlight so my face isn't that blown out. Somewhere around there. Then I raise my contrast a little bit more. Then I lower the highlights a little bit. And I don't feel like I need to do anything with the shadows. This is what that black and white image will look like. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to the next image. I have this picture of my dog. Now, I took this picture to see if I can get a good one. What I like about it is just the dog. What I don't like about it is the color of the wall, the color of the floor, and this little bit of like yellow on my dog, and the color of this background here. So turning it black and white will fix everything. So I go to edit, so that fixed everything. It looks really nice. What I like to do is contrast. I can make the picture a little bit brighter. And my dog, a lot of my dog's in the shadow. So I'm going to mess with the shadows and raise that. Now part of my dog is not in the shadow. Then I can raise the contrast. And then I have this great black and white picture of my dog. Okay. So that's it with the section of black and white. Hopefully it helped you guys out. My tools is mess with highlights and shadows, mess with contrast, find pictures that have less highlights in the background. Your subject is brighter than the background, is well exposed. You don't want like too many shadows in the face or in the subject. And less distracting elements, the better. I feel like black and whites look good when like you have solid backgrounds, solid patterns, not too many things going on in the background. Okay, so that's it for this section in black and white. Now we're going to move on to the next lecture.